Hey, Andre, welcome to this very special, we're going to call it a bonus episode of Talking Trucks.
Cool.
Because we're going to be doing our SEMA wrap-up, but more importantly, kind of give you guys the behind-the-scenes info, the look behind the curtain of what it's like.
The secrets of SEMA.
The secrets of SEMA. Maybe we should call it that, the secrets of SEMA. It
Okay.
sounds vaguely vulgar.
The secrets of Las Vegas. No, that's a different podcast.
Or
right?
naughty, I don't know. So Andre and I just got back from SEMA, and we published two videos, two walkarounds. One was, of course, our car channel, and the other one was on the truck channel. Actually, the truck
Podcast?
Yeah, podcast. And somebody said in one of the comments, this is not a podcast, the walkaround. I disagree. I think it was a good podcast.
Well, of course, it was a lot of visuals.
Yeah, does a podcast have to be the two of us sitting next to each other?
In the studio?
Yeah, with a picture behind us?
It doesn't have to be.
No, it could be a walk-around. So I think that was. I think actually, that was, in a lot of ways, that was a more interesting. I know it's tough if you're listening to it because you're not seeing it, but I think we tried to do our best to describe it. But we've got some interesting comments. So let's before we get to kind of what it was like to be there
of Las Vegas.
and a little bit of the gossip, Andre, and a little bit of the fun stuff that happened behind the scenes. Here's my favorite comment from the truck video. This is what happens when you mix Roman's adult ADD with Andre's OCD at an automotive show. It got 39 thumbs up.
Awesome. Thank you for that comment.
Too true. Ha ha. So true. Ain't it great? Those are some of the replies to that comment. And then this guy said, God, I hate Roman.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was Matthew Winslow, 5370. Sorry, Matt.
What? Can you explain yourself?
You know, one of my best friends is his name is Winslow. I hope that's not him. His name is Scott, though. It's not Matthew.
Okay.
Another guy said, I like you.
Okay.
But I don't know if he was referring to me or you or just the
somebody
video.
else, maybe Chloe.
Yeah.
Wasn't Chloe in our show? And
Yeah,
Nicole Wakeland?
Yeah, somebody said, hey, Chloe. Somebody else said, two old guys overdosed on energy drinks. Thanks. Yeah, I really appreciate that.
Actually, we weren't. We were just high on SEMA.
Yeah, exactly. On the energy of the floor. This is like Beavis and Butthead episodes. People like that one. That one got 8 thumbs up, 9 thumbs up.
How so? Is that because...
No, I think
say something like that.
I think we were just being goofy. You know, it's very lighthearted, and we did that on purpose. So when we did those walkarounds, go on ahead and watch them. Head on over to alltfl.com. If we try to make them an hour, we only actually covered 2 of the 5, 6 halls that were there.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, we try to cover the truck and off-road hall, and then we try to kind of cover the main car hall. But we try to be, lively and kind of fun and not take ourselves too seriously. And I made a bunch of mistakes, and people are giving me. I called a Nova a Chevelle. I pointed to a supercharger, and what did I call it? I called it a turbocharger. No, it was worse than that.
I don't remember.
Maybe I pointed to a supercharger and called it a battery. I don't know. But in our defense, guys, or in my defense, there's a ton of people there. And thousands of cars, tens of thousands of people. And unlike when we go to a regular auto show, now we're kind of getting behind the scenes.
Yeah.
There's no media date. Well, there is. It's a half hour.
A half hour every morning. There may be a media time.
Yeah, except we spent the half hour having our bag searched.
Yeah, security is very important.
Yeah, we were. So apparently if you get there 8:30, they won't let the exhibitors in until 9, but we got there 8:30, and there was a long-ass line of people. So by the time we got in both days, it was already going. So most auto shows, LA, Chicago, New York.
There's a special media day.
Yeah,
or day and a half.
Day and a
maybe.
half, where it's only journalists. And the great thing about that is it's not wall-to-wall people.
Yes.
And so you can get next to a car, you can talk to the PR reps, you can video the car. It's really nice because it gives you a chance to kind of get a sense of lay of the land, and then what you want to cover. SEMA, you once you get, it's like a fast moving river. Once you get into a stream of people,
That's it.
You're not going anywhere. And the other thing, and maybe this is something that's been going on a long time. You know, SEMA stands for the Specialty Equipment Manufacturers Association.
Yes.
So it's all the aftermarket, all the tuners, anything you can think of that you can do with a car, you're going to have at SEMA, and a truck.
Or any vehicle. We saw a boat,
or
a hydrogen-powered boat we saw there.
Exactly. So
Yes.
getting your arms around that is really hard, right? Trying to figure out, like, because a lot of it, is kind of basic stuff, right? It's people selling paint protection. There's even a Traxxas booth, people selling remote control cars.
Yeah, there's tools, there's lifts, welders.
Yeah, there's a whole floor of nothing but like Harbor
Tools.
Freight
Yes.
and tools for fixing and painting cars and trying to figure out, which of the cars that actually are modified
Or newsworthy.
are cool and newsworthy is hard because I've never seen so many lifted trucks. But there's one that you've got up on the screen here that we should talk about because that was the one that really stood out to me. What is that, Andre? It looks like a Miata with two pop-up headlights, but they're not.
Hey, podcast listeners and TFL Talk viewers. I wanted to take a minute to talk to you about a quick and simple way to sell your car or truck with the help of our new partner, Highroad. With Highroad's online portal, you enter your vehicle's VIN number or plate, mileage, and zip code, and you'll get competing offers from several qualified dealers in your area within seconds. You pick the best deal offered and follow through with the dealer to sell your vehicle. No more managing scammy emails from buyers on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. No more time wasted on no-show buyers. No bait and switch with a "will you take a check" excuse from sketchy buyers. Now keep in mind, these offers will be for trade-in values of your vehicle. If you want to go through the hassle of getting more for your vehicle, that's up to you. But if you want to sell your vehicle hassle-free and fast, go to tfltruck.com and click Sell Your Truck in the navigation menu. Or click on the Highroad ad at the bottom of the website if you're on mobile, or click on the column if you're on a desktop. Highroad makes it easy, and we like easy.
Yeah, so this is, I think, the definition of 2024 SEMA. This car was outside. By the way, anybody outside of the convention hall can walk up to the SEMA show and actually see some of the vehicles outdoors. And then on Friday, of course, you can go inside as well. This is a Mazda Miata with a giant hole in the hood and an engine popping out of it. And the engine, if you come up close to this car, is a Lamborghini V10. And
Is it 10 or 12?
10.
It's a 10.
And it's twin turbocharged. So where the pop-up headlights used to be on the Miata, they're completely taken up by a turbocharger on each side.
Yeah, so I think this was, for me, the most interesting car of the show. Whoever thought of putting a V10 Lamborghini
In the Miata.
twin turbo?
Kudos to you.
Kudos to you. I wonder if it's drivable.
We don't know.
I'm sure it runs, but I wonder if it's actually drivable. You would perhaps toast those rear tires pretty quickly.
With one touch of the accelerator.
Yeah. Now some of the stuff at SEMA, especially we didn't have a chance to because we ran out of time, but Andre wanted to go. I was getting all nervous trying to get back to the hotel because it was snowing in Denver and I wanted to make sure we got to the airport because I knew there were delays, which there were, but that's me. But Andre wanted to go and do a walk around of all the millions of lifted trucks that are parked in front of SEMA.
And not just lifted trucks. We're talking about monstrous trucks. Trucks with 30-inch wheels and like 44-inch tall tires.
Yeah, so here's the thing about those trucks, Andre, and this is why I wasn't that keen on actually going out, because there's a lot of them there, right? And they all have underglow. They're all, painted. They all have dub wheels.
And they
right?
have chrome everywhere. They're works of art.
You need a ladder, like an extension ladder to crawl into the seat. But here's the thing that bugs me, and this is a Roman thing, and you can call me a grumpy old man. That's fair, but this is a Roman thing. Those trucks can only be driven off the truck and parked barely, because they don't turn, wherever they're at. But you cannot take those on the street. You cannot use those for anything outside of showing off at SEMA. Right? They're not street legal, obviously.
You can't generalize all of them like this.
That's not street legal, dude.
How do you know?
Because that just isn't. Because it can't turn. That thing won't turn. It barely can.
Maybe it could turn.
It won't go under. It won't go under a bridge.
Well, it's less than 13 feet.
There were ones that were much more than 13.
There are ones that are taller than 13 feet. But if you're 13.5, that's a standard regulation semi-truck height that you could use.
Imagine if you're in traffic in that truck that we're looking at now. This has got, what would you say, 3-foot lift on it, something like that, 4-foot lift. How do you even see what car's in front of you?
I don't know if you need to see anybody.
How do you, those headlights? I know America is very lax but
we're very relaxed.
We do have some rules, Andre. Those headlights would not illuminate anything.
Well, they would illuminate my head. And
Yeah,
I'm
if you were
6'3".
standing, and the taillights you couldn't see either, right? You would just run under that thing because you would see these two taillights that seem to be UFO things. So I don't think that those trucks are street legal. I think that they're show girls or show trucks, which is fine, meant to show off fabricators and meant to show off
And
parts.
parts, yeah,
But
yeah.
but to me, if you can't put it on the street. And of course, it looks like it would be off-road worthy. The second you would drive that thing off-road, something would snap. The drive shaft would snap. A wheel bearing would crack. Right, a piece of trim would fall off. Something would go horribly wrong if you try to even take that thing off-road.
So Nathan has a good term for this.
Okay, what is it?
If Nathan was here on this podcast, he would say something like, "This truck is lifted and lowered at the same time," because what happens with these trucks, right? They, of course, the cabs and beds are lifted 2, 3, 4 feet off the ground, but some of the suspension components are actually lower.
Yeah.
Because they have to support the axles or they have to support some of the other components. So basically, like you said, you're basically making a truck that used to be a tool and a very useful thing into something showy that you can almost not use.
Yeah, and then the other thing that the reason I didn't necessarily want to go do that, because you were kind of angry with me, and I don't blame you. You wanted to go do a video on these.
Well, I
things.
was like a child at the candy
I know,
store.
and I said, no, you can't have any
My
more
candies.
Tootsie Rolls. No more Tootsie Rolls, Andre. You've had enough. The other reason that I didn't want to go is because after you've seen one, you've kind of seen them all. You know what I mean? They're all kind of, one's painted blue, one's painted lime green, one's painted lime orange. You see where I'm going with that? It all kind of is the same thing after a while. So these are not my favorite things. I like my favorite things are like that Miata, where it's something that's so bombastic, so over the top, right? And I'm sure when the first lifted 15-foot truck came around, it was bombastic and it was over the top. But now it kind of became this cliche of itself.
The norm, yeah.
The norm, yeah. Yeah, and so first we were looking at some modern trucks, but I've also seen classic, when I say lifted, I mean like 20 inches or 4 feet, right? These
Yeah.
right? That's what I'm talking about. And then they start lifting like classic trucks. So I like stuff that is like this Miata, where it potentially
But how
drives,
useful
it
is
steers.
this? It's completely unusable. So it's almost the same thing. I mean, you can't see in the front. The engine is above the hood.
I mean, this one is depending on how big your cojones are. So you can take this on the street, at least in the daytime, because it's lost its headlights.
Yeah.
And if you're brave enough, you could drive this on the street, right? But that truck is undrivable, right? It goes to SEMA and then it goes on a bed of a semi truck and goes back home to wherever it came from. And then maybe the next year they repaint it and bring it back to SEMA.
Send your hate mail to.
I'm done being grumpy. So let's talk about the cool stuff that we saw, because there is so much cool stuff. So a lot of these comments we got, Andre, were from people saying that we're Toyota fanboys because we did do a lot of Toyota coverage. Why was that, Andre? Why did we do a lot of Toyota coverage?
Well, because Toyota helped us to be there.
Yeah, they invited us.
They invited us, yes. So they invited us because they did have many, many vehicles that they were debuting, concepts, different parts, different things that they were showing. And they invited not just us, they invited several outlets, right?
Yeah.
Several journalists. There's some influencers, different platforms.
Chloe was there. She's a big Toyota gal.
Yeah. And several others. So thank you, Toyota. That's why we spent quite a bit of time there.
As a thank you to them, obviously, look, if somebody pays for your flight, if they buy you a hotel room, which we were bought, the hotel room was bought in the Cosmopolitan, so we got to stay in the Cosmo, which was a nice hotel, and then they provided us transportation, and then they bought us 2 nice dinners. I just want to be completely transparent. So this sounds like we were bought, but we weren't bought. Nobody at Toyota said to us, you have to cover us. In fact, we didn't have to cover them, but because we were appreciative of the fact that they helped us go to SEMA, helped us get there, and helped us stay there, we covered their vehicles. And also, some of the most interesting vehicles were the Toyota vehicles. Yeah, and we'll
For
talk.
example, the most popular was the Land Cruiser Rocks.
Yeah, but we also
was a
covered
concept.
but we also covered the Kia, and Kia did not, buy us a hotel room. We'll get to that in a second.
Yes.
But my point is, and this is an important one, with the way the media landscape is nowadays, with the amount of YouTube revenue that we generate doing these videos, there's no way, Andre, we could afford to fly ourselves, book a hotel. Dude, look, I'm showing you my iced tea right here. This is what I drink. I drink this Lipton iced tea.
Yeah.
And it's gotten ridiculous now. In the past, when we go to a car show, in the media room, they would provide you with lunch and breakfast because they were
And water and coffee.
They were appreciative of the fact that you were providing coverage and exposure and free publicity for their show. So if you're like at the LA Auto Show, the reason they do the press days ahead of time is so that they get the local people excited to come in and, of course, check out the vehicles.
Yeah, check out the show.
Pay the entrance fee. Yeah. SEMA doesn't give a rat's ass. In fact...
Well, the focus is different. We have to be clear.
Yeah, it's an industry show.
It's an industry show where kind of business to business, a lot of the stuff is business to business, where, you're either buying vendors or, vendors are coming to see the products or maybe franchise owners.
The reason I say they don't really care is because they don't have a media day. And they did have some like iced tea that they provided, to be fair, and I think maybe
in the paid shop.
But what they put up was they put up a snack shop in the press room where you had to buy your own snacks. Now I know I sound like I'm whiny, but we are providing relatively free exposure to them, and to pay $7 for a Lipton iced tea.
$7?
$7, yeah, for one Lipton iced tea just seemed a little over the top, especially since we're working hard.
But I have another gripe.
Wow, this is becoming a gripe fest. We'll get to the fun stuff. I promise.
No. The Wi-Fi, Roman.
Wi-Fi is so bad.
We logged in. We logged into the media store room Wi-Fi to upload our videos because we want to be first always. We're very competitive. At least I am very competitive. And the Wi-Fi was so slow, it was faster to actually, like an LTE or 5G phone, to upload it.
Yeah, and we're just trying to get that stuff up there. That 1 hour walk around we did for car, I spent like 2 hours uploading and 1 hour filming it. That's just freaking ridiculous. And I thought about, using their internet, the SEMA's internet. It was $80 a day to sign up
for a paid
for the cruddy slow service. And if you wanted the good service, I think it was for like 4 days, $300. And you're like, Jesus, guys, we're just trying to help you out here, trying to get the stuff out there so that people see it, so that, and even though SEMA is a trade show, it still does build buzz. But anyway.
And actually, it's kind of a bucket list for a lot of people.
It is a
lot of enthusiasts, like I was talking, to some, people who live near me in Colorado here. They asked where I was going, and I said I was going to Las Vegas to the SEMA show. And they're like, whoa, I wish one day, I would be able to see or go to Las Vegas and actually see some of this stuff.
But I gotta have a confession on you. I hate going to SEMA because, like, your buddy there, or whoever that was,
yes,
they have this like imagination that they're gonna go and go gambling in the evening, go to nice restaurants, and then go stroll through SEMA. For us, it's like super hard work. I mean, it's hard to get your arms around it. It's hard to figure out where things are. By the second day, really, the media coverage, from my point of view, depends on how close it is to the press room because we've walked so much. I think last year you got, 27,000 steps?
A day.
Yeah.
This year we did a little bit less.
And that's just going and figuring out. That's not filming. That's not, And I know this sounds whiny because there are much tougher jobs than we have out there, and I appreciate and I understand that. But in terms of media, this is, about as long of a day as it gets.
Yeah, and also I want to mention one more thing about Toyota inviting some outlets, including us, right?
Yeah,
it's because
Brady was there. Who else was there? Let's just name names.
Let's
names.
Drop all the names.
Who else?
Jared Carbuzz.
Yeah, Carbuzz. Jared
was there. Overland Journal was there.
Yeah, Scott was there.
Ex-Overland was there.
Those guys are great. Yeah, and these have become our friends because we see them so much. So it's.
But here's the thing, Roman. Yeah. For you and I,
our man Sam. Hey Sam, he was there.
Yes.
I saw him. I didn't see him there, but I saw him on
on television
on a video screen on a panel. So
yeah,
that's from Wheel Bearings, by the way.
And Nicole Wakeland was there, not with Toyota.
No,
I think I'm not sure how Nicole got there, but you and I, Roman, we didn't have to do this. We could have bought our own rooms. We could have flew there ourselves. But for us, it's still a business, right?
Yeah.
So for us, we need to know what our return on investment would be. So without knowing what Toyota was going to show or what Kia was going to show, or we had no idea this Miata Lamborghini was there. So without knowing all those things in advance, it's hard to us to prove that we can make money.
Yeah, well, I'm telling you, Andre, if we had shown up and done it all ourselves, we would have lost money. And it's hard enough to do this without knowing you're losing money doing it. So, that's why I especially appreciate the patrons who support us. If you want to head on over to patreon.com/TFL car and be one of those guys and gals that, has our back. We really appreciate it. It allows us to not be so nervous at night about where we're going to be paying our rent. So we really appreciate those guys. And you also, if you happen to join, you get access to videos first. We do behind the scenes videos. We comment on your comments much more so than we can because we get thousands of comments on the regular videos. So we really appreciate you. So thank you very much.
Yeah, totally appreciate it. So more. Let's talk more.
All right, let's go to the fun stuff, okay?
Yes.
So for me, the biggest surprise were two vehicles. Not my favorite, but the biggest surprise. Okay, so
what is it?
So the first one that I didn't see coming was that van the Kia unveiled.
I had no idea that.
You want to tell them about that thing? That was way cool.
Yeah. So Kia Weekender, it's called.
And it's not spelled the way you think it is.
No, they removed all the vowels. It's all in consonants. But Kia, of course, and Hyundai Group and Genesis, right? They have history at SEMA, right? Kia has been coming to SEMA for at least 20 years. At least that's what they told us. They had two veiled vehicles, right? We showed up there on Tuesday morning. They had two veiled vehicles completely covered, and one looked like a box, so that piqued my interest already. And the other one looked like an SUV, right? So this was already interesting. And when they took the the covers off.
The SUV was the EV9 that they had slapped, some bigger tires on.
Yes.
And did a little bit of a lift. Nothing that we haven't seen before.
Some nice touches.
A little bit of nicer quality interior to show off their bespoke creation. But the one that blew our mind was this commercial electric van that they had converted into kind of the next generation of off-roading vans. And here's the thing, Andre. For the longest time, concept vehicles, right, were these like way out concepts that the designers would do, and then you knew they would never get built because they were so expensive to create and they had so much like cutting edge technology.
They're bespoke, right? Everything was
unique. And then somehow over the years, these concepts became almost like the first one I saw was a Stinger, right? Remember the Kia Stinger?
Yeah.
When they showed that was production ready. So I've gotten used to seeing concepts that are basically what's coming to your local dealer. Not this thing. This thing was so far out there. Why don't you tell them about some of the coolest features? And you can see this in our video, but we'll tell you now as well.
And I like really useful things. I like simple things. And this is basically a cab over van, kind of like something dear to my heart, the Buchanka van, which is my personal project that I work on. But basically that means it's small on the outside and humongous on the inside.
By the way, Andre was flying after our dinner because he sat next to Scott Brady, who runs the Overland Journal.
I was on cloud 9.
Yeah, and Scott wants to profile Andre's LS.
In his journal.
In the journal, in paper, in
podcast.
In the Bible of Overlanding, his Russian LS swap Buchanka. So you got some work to do this weekend, Andre.
Yeah, so the pressure is on.
The pressure is on now that they want to feature you in the Overland Journal.
So basically what a Buchanka van is basically, the Ford Control.
Yeah.
Ford Control Jeeps,
yeah.
right? Basically, you're sitting on the front axle. The crumple zone are your knees, basically, right? The engine in the Buchanka van would be like between you and the passenger.
Kind of like that old Toyota Sienna, like the minivan.
Yeah, kind of. Or also there are Ford vans like that. There were Chevy vans like that. So
let's not go too far to the Buchanka.
But Kia created a similar concept, but it's all electric. And by the way, all the comments initially said electric ew, right? People were turned off by the fact this was electric. I wasn't looking at that at all. I looked at the features of this thing. Humongous doors. There's a sliding door on the passenger side. There's a portal door, kind of a slide out drawer door on the other side where you can kind of step into. Take off your shoes, make sure there's no dust, and then you enter the van. It had a tent on the roof. It had racks.
Electrically opening tent.
Yes.
You don't have to pop it open. It pops open electrically. And here's the cool part. It had
modular interior.
Modular interior, so you can move stuff around. But it had a winch on the front. And then on top of the winch is a screen. And that screen actually displays how much weight the winch is pulling. How cool is that?
In real time.
Real time, yeah.
That's the concept. And then, of course, they said the wheels will make electricity while standing.
Yeah, I was
that kind of my skepticism kind of peaked.
Yeah, wait. I thought, okay, you're gonna do regen. That's what I thought when they first said it. That
Yeah.
it like regenerates. I'm like, okay, yeah, I've been there, done that. But he said no. When the vehicle is standing still, the wheels generate electricity.
And we're like,
How does that? Yeah, exactly. How does that? So what? What? And apparently, the way that works, as far as I understand it, is there are turbines, right?
little propeller, yes.
In the wheels,
In the hub
themselves-
of
in
the wheel.
hub. And when wind blows, it spins it like a giant, windmill, and that generates electricity, which powers the van. Of course, there's also solar panels on the roof.
Yeah.
And then on the back, when people say like, when your immediate reaction is, I hate electric, I'm thinking to myself, if I'm camping and I can just plug in my vehicle into the battery without having to ever start the engine and worry about, using all that noise and all that gasoline while I'm sitting there.
Yeah,
And
no generators.
And obviously, a Sprinter van has a battery, right? And it has solar panels that charge up that battery. But this battery is, I don't know what the battery is in there, but it's like,
It'd be like 100 kilowatt hours, let's say.
let's
or
say,
more.
Let's say like 10 times or 20 times as big as the current battery that's used to power, all the refrigerators and all the electronic gadgets in your Sprinter van, plus outlets everywhere. It was so cool, Andre. So cool.
Very innovative, right?
Yeah.
But you would say this will never be built because
will never be
it was a SEMA concept, but it's based on a commercial van that they want to sell soon. So that gave me a little bit of hope, Roman, because if this was just a one-off thing that they've created in the studio and will never be seen again, this is based on a production commercial van that they want to build.
You know how they'll never build it, for at least in America? It's got the rear view side cameras that are there in place of regular mirrors. And those are illegal in the U.S.
Yeah.
So, they just stick the little cameras out on a
Sure,
stick.
sure.
It's cool.
But they can add mirrors to it, Roman.
They could.
Yeah.
All right, and the second vehicle that I absolutely fell in love with was the Toyota ROX, ROX. Now, I know, because I've been out on the trail, that when I'm in a 4Runner, which competes with the Bronco and the Wrangler, especially in the marketplace, and I'm out there, I get a little bit of topless jealousy, Andre, because all the folk that are rocking their Wranglers and Broncos on a beautiful day can just take off the roofs, panels.
Yeah, they can.
And I'm like, oh, I get a sunroof, I guess. But
Right.
it's not the same, right?
Maybe you don't have a sunroof.
And then, some Jeeps have half doors, right, where lets the wind in and you feel like you're on a motorcycle when you're out there off-roading. Well, Toyota finally built a concept vehicle that had kind of a My Sky roof like the Jeep had, the roof that kind of, it doesn't...
Like a sliding cloth.
A sliding cloth roof. But they went one step further, and this is the part that really got me. First of all, the concept is brilliant. The whole...
It's gorgeous.
It's
first
gorgeous.
of all.
So it's built on an existing Land Cruiser, and it has 37s, I believe.
It's rolling on 37, so giant tires, huge wheel openings, but also it looks amazing.
Yeah, so it's
Looks
got
amazing.
It's got a built-in winch. It's got
Giant
underbody
bumpers.
cladding, giant bumpers, all the stuff. External lights from the factory, all the stuff that, of course, has been happening at Easter Jeep Safari for their concepts forever. So finally, Toyota is actually acknowledging the fact that their customers want to compete in that open air off-roading world. But what's the coolest part that none of the Jeep or Bronco competition has that this has?
You could fold the rear seats down with a midgate and open up the rear section as if it was a truck.
Yeah, so
It has a bed, basically.
It's got a bed, yeah.
Yes.
So you can either have a 4 or 5 seater,
Yeah.
or you can fold the seats down and fold that midgate down so that you have an open air experience, but you also have a bed. How cool is that, Andre?
So it's a little truck, basically.
I've been trying to buy one of these, but it's probably too late. So as you know, I'm Czech, and Škoda is a Czech company.
Yeah.
And like 25 years ago, I believe, 30 years ago, so you can actually import them. Škoda built a little pickup truck called the Fun. Have you heard of this thing?
I don't know. Let me Google it.
Yeah. Google Škoda Fun, and I'll tell you what it did, which is why I want to buy it. The problem is they're so hard to find, and back then the Škoda...
It's a little thing. Oh, wow. You know what it looks like? It looks like a Brat.
Looks like a Brat or an El Camino, but here's the magic of it.
What?
Do you see the magic?
Hold on. No, there's somebody. Oh, you can remove the back of it?
No, it does
The midgate.
It does more. It has more than a midgate, so it's a two-seater, kind of El Camino / Brat, right?
Yes.
But then the back section folds down, and the whole thing slides backward. And then there are two seats that lower from basically it's not a firewall, whatever the opposite of the firewall is,
The
bed
midgate
wall.
area, yeah.
So that slides backwards.
Ah.
And then there are two seats that come down so that the people can be sitting basically in the bed on seats that are already there with nothing above them.
And this was a production vehicle you could buy?
Yeah, the Skoda Fun, yeah.
Yes.
Isn't that cool?
It is very cool. It's very innovative. It reminds me of the Kia, actually.
Yeah.
Innovation-wise.
Yeah. Yeah, and they were like, I think they were, I don't remember anymore, but like 1.3 liter diesels or something. But yeah, this rocks concept kind of reminded me of that. Not quite as innovative in some ways because the midgates have been around, but also really cool.
Here's where I was when I saw this Land Cruiser Rocks. First of all, the Land Cruiser is already on sale, right? Also on sale is the Lexus GX 550.
By the way, those are very much Jeep wheels. We have a set of those wheels on our Jeep.
Oh, yeah, kind of the style of it.
Kind of like that looks like a giant hex screw or something.
There's a Land Cruiser.
Yeah.
There's a GX 550. The new 4Runner is just around the corner.
Yeah.
The new 4Runner will probably go on sale, late January, maybe February or March of 2025. They're all based on the same frame, Roman. They're all based on the basically Tacoma chassis. They're all shortened. They all have 5 seats, maybe 7 seats in some cases. They mostly have the same power. Okay, some of them have V6 versus a hybrid. But they're very similar, and they're in a similar price range. It seems confusing to me because why would you have 3 SUVs in your lineup, one Lexus and 2 Toyotas, which are very similar to each other? Why don't you take a top off one of them to make one of them convertible, differentiate them further from one another, and make it super cool?
Well, I can answer the first question. Why would you have 3 SUVs basically going for the same audience?
Yes.
I think the answer was at SEMA. So when we started going to SEMA, which was, 10 years ago, maybe longer, I forget now. It's been one SEMA. Just once you've been to one, they all become kind of mixed up in your brain. But because it's so crazy there. But back in the day, remember we used to go and look at the off-roaders, and they were all like rock climbers. Today, there is not a single overlander, because that's what they've turned into, without like max tracks on the side.
And a shovel.
And a shovel, exactly.
A little baby shovel has to be on the side of it.
Yeah, so like overlanding, which I used to call camping, is there a distinction between going camping for the weekend or driving around the world? I suppose there is, but when you let marketing and media turn into it, there isn't much of a distinction. Has become so huge that everybody wants to be kind of perceived as, having
An
that
adventurous person.
Having an active lifestyle, or they actually do it, or they actually want to do it. I don't know. It could be all of those, but yeah, it's just that wave doesn't show any sign of abating. It hasn't crashed into the rocks yet of another trend. Right now, I think that the more off-roady it is looking, the more people want it. And
so that's why you have all these room. There's room for all of them.
Yeah, that's why you have all these off-roaders, I think, or at least want to be. I mean, you look at Honda with the Passport
and the Pilot,
and the Pilot, right?
Yes.
And you look at Hyundai with their off-roady version.
Well, they have Santa Fe. They have Well, they have Kia vehicles, right?
Kia has the same thing, right? They all have off-roading aspirations. I'm not going to call them off-roaders because they don't. I mean, to me, a serious off-roader has to have a low range. Having said that, the Bronco Sport doesn't have one. It's pretty serious. But for the most part, if you were to pin me to the wall, what delineates a serious off-roader, it would be a low range. Forget about locking diffs. And a lot of these vehicles don't have that, but this has it.
This has it.
The Land Cruiser has it in spades.
Yeah.
And the other cool Toyota, this is an honorable mention, is when I was growing up, the car that I listed after, and let's face it, the Toyota 86 should have been called the Celica. It just should have been, right? Because that was my sporty Toyota of my generation. And then the coolest of the Celicas was the all-wheel drive. It had the Coke bottle shape. It was basically a WRC, variant that was street legal. Had the little hood scoop on it, and so finally Toyota figured out that they had this wonderful thing that's kind of been underground, and people, have been lusting after it. And what they did was they took the 86 and they took the GR Corolla motor, that 3-cylinder turbo, ditched the Boxster, made it all-wheel drive, put a bunch of headlights on it, and
a classic livery.
a classic livery. And the only thing that's missing is a Coke bottle shape. I would have blown out those sides a little bit more, but basically that's the all-wheel drive Celica turbo.
300 horsepower, amazing power, amazing style.
And they built it once again. Toyota almost got it right. They built it as a race car
With the roll cage. I mean, it's really a race car.
Yeah, but why? Why not build it as a real concept? I mean, the race cars to me are just purpose built. They don't suggest that it's ever going to be in a showroom. I mean, of course, there are race cars that have been turned into street cars, but I would have gone the other way. I would have actually recreated that Celica with the GR Corolla 3-cylinder turbo, made it all-wheel drive, used the 86 as a platform, and just gone after it. But,
Well, the GR86 already has a beautiful chassis, right? If you ask any car reviewer, I'm not one of them. I focus more on pickup trucks and big SUVs. But if you ask a lot of people, they'll say great balance, right? Low weight. So if you take that chassis, you add all-wheel drive to it and power, I mean, it could be very, very amazing.
yeah, unfortunately, that hot hatch front-wheel drive category is almost dead right now. I think the only so I'm talking about the Ford Fiesta, the Ford Focus. There were all these hot hatches that were front-wheel drive, Veloster. Only thing that's left right now is the Honda Civic Type R, I think, in terms of the GTI is still around.
The Golf GTI.
Yeah.
I mean, some Subarus, they're still there.
Subarus are all-wheel drive.
I'm
talking about true front-wheel drive.
True front-wheel drive.
Yeah. There's all-wheel drive cars. GR Corolla. We don't get it, but the GR Yaris, which they get in Europe, those are around. But
the true front-wheel
drive,
drivers.
the pull your steering wheel out of your hands, torque steer guys are almost all gone. With the Civic kind of being one of the last standing. One of the last.
I really like this
Having said
concept.
that, if you were asking me, Roman, what would you rather have, a Golf R or a GTI? I would say GTI all day. The Golf R is faster, it's more capable, it's better in the snow. But if you want something that's fun to drive, go for the GTI.
I think it has to do with weight, right? As soon as you go to the R, it becomes heavier, it becomes bulkier. But to have a low-weight vehicle, that's kind of really cool.
Now, we had some weird things happen to us. Why don't you tell them? So, first of all,
some amazing things, actually.
Yeah. So the best part was when we were doing the walkarounds. I don't know what happened. Somehow people started to recognize. We've been going to SEMA a lot, and we've always gotten a handful of people that have come up to us and said, "Hey, can we have a?" And we love that. We love meeting you guys. But this year it was just nonstop.
There was a lot of youth, and thank you for stopping us and saying hello. And
but there was one really uncomfortable, weird thing that happened.
There was one uncomfortable person.
Yeah, tell them what happened. We're kind of walking back to the media room
through this very crowded space.
That's the other thing.
Very crowded hallway.
Look, it's supposed to be for non-consumers, right? So people in the business. But somehow I think over the years, and I think SEMA kind of looks the other way because they don't care and they appreciate the fact that it's gotten so huge. A lot of people who are there are maybe maybe associated somehow or maybe adjacent to people in the business, but they may not be in the business. Like they're not like working at body shops or fabricators. They may be like friends of these people because there's just a lot of people who seem to be walking around looking at
or
stuff
just
like
just
a car
slowly,
show.
Like visiting, not working.
Yeah, and I say that because there's a lot of old dudes, and I guess I'm an old dude in shorts. You know what I mean? Who are obviously
Hawaiian shirt, or something,
who are obviously there just kind of to check out the show, not to actually conduct any fabricating business. They're not looking for the next paint booth. Let's put it that way. All right.
Yeah.
Anyway,
This one over here over my left shoulder. I heard your voice.
Yeah, I heard your voice.
I heard your voice.
And I'm like,
we're like, yes. And I turn and there's this man, maybe my age, right? And he's looking at you and he said, I heard your voice. I'm like, yes.
And I was like,
hear our voice.
I was like, yeah, maybe you heard me on YouTube. That's where I'm at.
And he didn't respond other than to say, I heard your voice.
And then he just kept following us, repeating, I heard your voice. And we were starting to get freaked out.
And we were like shoulder to shoulder in the crowd.
Yeah, but there's no way we're gonna like scoot away. So Andre and I were looking at each other while this guy's behind us says, "I heard your voice."
That was very strange.
Yeah, luckily there were so many people that eventually I think we lost him. But for the most part, the people we met were
No, it was amazing people.
were really cool.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And, we didn't hear any comments like, hey, Andre, you really suck. You should stop doing what you're doing. We never got a comment like that.
No, everybody there is super nice. And
Very positive.
Very
and
positive.
Very, very happy to be there. So that was really amazing.
And we did one time. So the media badge has like a green strip at the bottom, whereas exhibitors have red bottom
or
strip,
blue or something.
Yeah. So one time we did have one perk of being media, and that was they let us go inside without having the dog sniff our bag or our bag search. Not at the beginning of the show, during the show.
Yeah, during the show.
So that was nice. So thank you, SEMA. Appreciate that. The other one I wanted to talk about was some of the other manufacturers and what they brought. So let's talk about Honda, Andre, because Honda was there. They come every year.
Yeah, and in this way, this year we was a little bit more focused on motorsports. Honda's been in motorsports in a very big way.
They had a Red Bull Formula One car.
Yeah, they had the Formula One car there. They had a trophy truck there, which is kind of based loosely on a Ridgeline, just by the sheer fact that the bodywork in the front looks like a Ridgeline.
Yeah, I think their racing is called HRC, right?
HRC division, Honda Racing Company, basically HRC. I think it some ways in the previous years it was called HPD.
It was called Honda Performance
Development.
Yeah.
But now it's Honda Racing Company. So, and they had an Indy car there. They had rally cars there. They also had
a Formula One car. This
Formula
is cool.
One car.
This is really cool. This yellow thing. Tell them what you're looking at.
But they also had an Acura Integra HRC. It had an HRC badging. It's basically like a Type R Civic, but in Acura body and on steroids, right? It had all kinds of performance goodies, aerodynamics, a wing, unique exhaust system.
This was the
a lot
closest
of cool parts.
to something that could be built. I was so excited. I was like, this could be something. Because look, if the reason I say that is, I don't like window shopping because, like let's say you're looking at very expensive watches, and I'm not a watch guy, or cars. I don't necessarily like window shopping because I won't be buying it. I can't afford it. So I don't want to tease myself, right? So that's how I kind of feel about concept cars sometimes, that you'll never be able to afford them. So why even like pretend so? So this to me seemed like something that they could eventually build and sell until I got inside and I saw basically instead of the rear seats, they had put a roll cage.
Yeah, so it had like a rear seat delete, which takes an interesting usable vehicle and kind of cuts it in half, right?
Yeah, they're not probably going to build, a four-door with a rear seat delete.
So there was another vehicle there, which was the Honda Pilot HRC, but this wasn't a street racer. This was an off-roader, with even bigger tires than the Trail Sport, very huge steel bumpers, a winch, lights, racks. I think it had a shovel also.
Yeah.
It had a shovel.
Yeah.
What do you think? Can they build this? Will they build this?
Well, what's interesting is that in the past, right, their off-roady vehicles Honda's off-roady vehicles, especially this guy, right, have come from the factory and were designed as on-road vehicles that they've tried to customize to off-road. This is the first one with like serious off-road cred, like you've got a real metal bumper
and huge skid plates
and big wheels and tires and a serious lift. As far as I know, you don't have a low range. Which makes it kind of problematic. But I've always scratched my head because Honda Motorsports built some of the best dirt bikes. They built
and
great
also side-by-sides.
Yes. And yet, for on-road, they're kind of like the Germans. They just don't do off-roaders.
Well, they're very conservative, yes.
Yeah.
It seems
but maybe
like,
even they have jumped on the overlanding bandwagon, as you can tell by that.
And of course, we just saw the Passport Trail Sport, right? Nathan just drove it as a prototype. And we know that the Pilot Trail Sport exists. We're hoping the next Ridgeline Trail Sport will also continue this trend and actually get a little bit more off-roady. But they've always had an issue with ground clearance, right? They do a lot of cool stuff. The all-wheel drive system is amazing. The comfort is amazing. But the ground clearance lets it down, usually.
Yeah, so if you really want to go head-to-head with Jeep or with Bronco, you got to kind of come out of the box with an off-roader, and then you got to nourish and build a community of aftermarket fabricators and modifiers so that you can change the bumper, you can mount a winch. And if you can do that, Honda, then you're in the ball game.
And they've done that with motorcycles and side-by-sides
Yeah.
for decades, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they know how to do this.
But it was, as somebody who lives in Colorado, and I know a lot of you guys, are in Europe where off-roading is very difficult. And so for you, like, this is more interesting. What are you looking at there, Andre?
Well, another Acura.
HRC.
This one is a complete race car, right?
Yeah.
So they've showed several of them as well. And they also had like a Le Mans prototype. They had a lot of racing
My
vehicles.
favorite was a Formula One Red Bull. Because I didn't realize how big those things are. You see 'em
you
on
come
TV,
up to it.
and you think it's like one of those like go-karts. It's wider than like a F-150.
And it's maybe just as long.
Yeah. I didn't realize they were
Yeah.
such huge vehicles. So now I see why passing's so hard. All right, let's keep going with the other manufacturers. So Ford was there. What did Ford bring, Andre?
Yeah, so Ford brought several trucks, which I loved, right? So they had an F-150 ORV, basically off-road recreation vehicle that they showed some accessories on. They actually they showed one supercharged F-150.
Yeah, Ford's been doing that, right?
They've been selling superchargers.
Yeah, they've been selling superchargers, but it's more than that. They've been selling superchargers that are installed at the dealership and warranted by the factory. So it's basically cheap horsepower because you can get a Coyote.
And reliable horsepower. too.
Yeah, slap a supercharger. Now you're looking at 700 horsepower. And Ford will actually, warranty it, which is great because, that's a recipe for blowing an engine if you do it wrong.
Exactly. And so they also had several Broncos, freewheeling versions of it, like packages. They also unveiled something they called like a custom garage where you can go to the dealership and you can, get some more accessories, right? Kind of bundle together. Hopefully you can get it as a better deal. I haven't experienced this yet, so I don't know exactly how that works.
But the one interesting thing, which
Yes.
I think I need to comment on is, and this is Toyota. Once again, I'm not a Toyota fanboy. I'm just stating a fact, right? So, NASCAR for a long time was dominated by the domestic car manufacturers, specifically Dodge, right? Mopar.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then they left, and guess who jumped in?
Toyota.
And now, Toyota is part of American NASCAR culture, just like apple pie and fireworks, right?
Yes.
It seems like the company has a long-term view. And for as long as we've been going to SEMA, the most prominent booth is kind of in what hall is that?
It's the Central Hall.
Central
It's
Hall.
called Central.
And it's kind of, you kind of go up a set of steps, so it's up high, it's raised above everybody else. And that has forever been Ford.
As far as we remember.
Yeah, and they've always used it to showcase and showcase their lifted trucks and Mustangs and such. And this year, guess who had that spot?
Well, that space now belongs to Toyota because during COVID, really, Ford stepped away.
Yeah,
And
just
Toyota,
like Dodge stepped away. And so I think Toyota's smart. They think long term, and they see that this is something that they want to get into.
they see opportunities like that, and they just step in,
And so that kind of forced Ford into a smaller space, or maybe they didn't want.
which was very crowded, actually.
Which was very crowded, and then they unveiled a
They had
custom.
the custom lowered, slammed F100, right?
Yeah.
Which was beautifully done. Just completely customized vehicle, probably thousands of hours of work.
But we couldn't get near it.
I know, yes.
There was so many people around it. They had just unveiled it when we were there, and you guys might be thinking to yourself, "Well, why don't you just come back?" Well, because it's like 14 miles away from
everything else.
Everything else, yeah. It would literally take us an hour to go there and come back. That's how long it would take to go there. So when we're there, when we did our walk around, I felt bad. There was some dude who I think was a fabricator walking around in Ford pajamas. I'm not making that up. Watch the video.
It was like a
It was like a Jewish fabricator.
overalls.
He had a yarmulke and like
Ford pajamas.
Ford jammies. Yeah, it was so cute. And then I wanted to see the truck, but I couldn't. But all the other
But
trucks.
it had a huge supercharged engine.
Yeah, it was beautifully done. God, it was absolutely gorgeous. So
And they
congratulations.
also had several Broncos, right? And they always support. Ford is really good at this. They support the enthusiasts. They have a huge, aftermarket presence, and also freewheeling options are to support the outdoors, right? Make sure we're supporting organizations that help us clean up the trails, keep the trails open, and do kind of education around it. So really good stuff there.
Yeah, and then we can't leave this podcast without once again thanking our sponsor. So we went over to Waysafe.
Yes.
Which is our truck hitch sponsor. And those guys had some pretty interesting stuff. It was pretty cool. They had a video where you basically could drive a badly set up trailer, which you
with a truck,
with a truck,
like a video game.
video
Yes.
game, and you had to go like through these canyons and
On the highway.
in Utah and try to keep the thing from swaying too much, and you failed miserably. It was hilarious. So Andre, you were kind of like, you didn't know because you were on camera, right? So
Right.
you were a little like, you weren't sure of what you were doing. And I
Yeah,
was
it
like,
was the first time I sat down.
and as you can see on the screen, your rearview mirror, and I'm like, Andre, your trailer's swaying. And Andre was just so focused on driving. I'm like, Andre, your trailer's swaying. So, of course, eventually, this is the funny part. It swayed so much that it basically jackknifed him. And then what happened?
And a huge semi just leveled me. Just hit me like T-boned.
Yeah, so
T-boned it.
So it was bad,
I was
followed
dead.
by disgraceful. But it was cool that Waysafe.
And all the
was there.
Waysafe people are standing there, and also some of the other people watching. And they're like, Andre, aren't you like the managing editor of TFL Truck?
Yes, I know. It was very embarrassing.
But
Andre.
to my defense, Roman, this video game had no brake controllers.
No,
It didn't have a brake controller.
It was like a video game where you sat in a seat with the steering wheel in front of you, right? And Andre kept reaching for a non-existent view, and he was like saying, "If this was swaying, I just hit the brake controller." I'm like, "Dude, there's no brake controller."
And then I smashed into the mountain.
Hey, when we talked to them about actually doing some maybe TFL branded stuff,
That would be
some hitches.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if that's something you guys would be interested in, let us know in the comments below, or let us know, however you want to let us know.
Or maybe
Ask a
like
TFL
little
truck.
safety kits, right? Like
Yeah.
a tow hook, or some gloves, maybe some
But
utility kits.
But the magic to a Waysafe, of course, is that their hitches have little
scale,
scales
yeah.
so that you know how much load, so that you don't overload it, so you don't get hit by. Sorry, Andre, a semi truck when you're
Exactly.
reaching for a non-existent brake controller.
Safety.
All right, let's talk about Mopar.
Mopar, that was cool.
Yeah.
And also Nissan.
We'll get. I'm working my way through the list here. Don't worry.
All right. Mopar. So Mopar, of course, means Mopar is an arm of Stellantis, right? They've always been around. I mean, how long has Mopar been around? Like 70 years?
I don't
80
know.
years?
Yeah, it's
a long time.
A long time.
And they do just more than just your, exhaust pipes and
They
intakes.
do
and stuff.
crate engines.
They do crate engines. They
A Elephant, dude. You could have bought a Elephant once upon a time. I think it maybe still can.
I think there may be some existing Hellafants or Hellcat engines.
Yeah.
They now do twin turbo Hurricane.
Yep.
Hurricanes.
Yep.
They call them. They also do like parts, used parts, so you can go to a dealership, any Stellantis dealer.
Right now, it sounds like a commercial.
No. I want to make sure this is important. This is important.
All right, what's your point?
Because affordability, right?
Okay.
So they provide affordable parts. So if you have a vehicle, I don't know, a Jeep Cherokee or a Ram 1500,
You think
and you're
Mopar's
looking for a part-
affordable? I think it's manufacturer stuff tends to be more expensive than like the aftermarket.
He said
stuff.
40% under
They had a
market.
Mopar, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, well,
That's what they said.
Anyway,
So anyway,
They were there.
But they had a couple cool concepts
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
nonetheless. And they were unveiling a light on top of a windshield.
yes, that was
That's what
cool.
they
So
unveiled.
they took one of the Easter Jeep Safari Jeeps, and this is also over at All TFL if you watch the video. And basically, they took one of the lights that normally sits on top of the A-pillar, and you could basically take it and spin it sideways so that now it's no longer sitting on top, but it's rotated.
And now it points down.
And then you could rotate it down as well. So you could rotate it to the left, you could rotate it to the right, you can rotate it up and down. So if you needed to light up, if you're wheeling at night and you don't know what's next to you, you could light it up. Or if you were
changing a tire, for example.
you could light
Yeah.
that up. It was a really clever concept, and that
But
was
still
cool.
a concept. It's
Still a
not
concept.
on sale.
I don't think it's on sale yet. And then, of course, they had a bunch of vehicles that they built specifically for SEMA. What was your favorite?
So the Plymouth GTX, they had an resto-mod there. I really love the look of that car.
Badass.
But very badass, very large, and very cool. Except, it had an electric powertrain with batteries, and they said they already drove it over 100 miles an hour. So it's a fully functioning, not just a trailer queen, but a functioning car. But that's still not on sale.
Yeah, I think they're trying to get people ready for the upcoming electric
Dodge Charger,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
But that the intention is that you could buy like an electric motor, batteries, or maybe inverters and all the system from them.
GM did that like 5 years ago. You could buy the bulk powertrain. I was there when they unveiled that.
I know, but you still kind of can't. I mean, I know they talked about it, right? They talked about it. They showed it 5 or 6 years ago, but it's still very difficult to do. At least, we tried to electrify the truck together.
It's not easy.
And it was very expensive and very difficult.
How about truck-wise? Did they have any trucks there?
Remember that?
That sand
that a
color
classic
2500, yeah?
Well, the Power Wagon.
Yeah, there's a Power Wagon.
Power Wagon, which is kind of highlights what's coming next. But they still haven't talked about any specifications for the new Cummins engine and the new V8 Hemi, anything like that.
Didn't hear anything. Here's the other thing that I learned in their booth. They have a weird naming structure. So there's two trucks that are coming, right? The Charger, the Ram Charger, and the Rev.
Yes.
Now EREV stands for electric.
Extended range electric vehicle.
Right? And then, of course, Charger, something.
Just a Charger or a car.
Yeah. But it's weird because you would think that the Rev would be the EREV.
It's not.
That has the additional Pentastar motor to charge the battery, but it's not. The Charger actually is the Rev.
Yeah.
EREV.
You're talking about their trucks.
But the EREV is just a pure electric vehicle.
Yes.
It's not a range extender. So it was a little
confusing.
Ram, I don't
fix
know.
Your naming.
Yeah, because people started to go into the vernacular what, Rev means or EREV means, right?
Right. But they called their truck, the battery electric truck, Rev, REV, as in revolution.
Yeah,
right?
I get that.
So that was kind of a cool play on words. But they did it 2 years ago, right?
But not range extender.
And now EREV, so there's an extra E. EREV came about, and now it means something else. So Ram, it's a little confusing.
All right, now we're coming to our friends at Onyx. They were there as well, so we visited them. And they're, as you know, one of the companies that supports us on the Off-Road channel, so we're very grateful. Because we use their stuff all the time, and they have something new, Andre, right? They showed us. They have
turn by turn
off-roading. Yeah, so like Google Maps or Apple Maps now, if you want to go off-road and use Onyx, they do turn by turn so that it's a little bit easier. And when you think about it, turn by turn is pretty tricky because most trails don't have stoplights or stop signs.
Nothing.
Or intersections.
They have bushes and trees and rocks.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, and then, of course, you're over here at our friends from Nissan. What did they have?
Well, they had several vehicles.
They slammed the truck. They slammed the Frontier.
They slammed one. It was a crew cab. It was supercharged, dude. Remember 20 years ago?
Yeah.
They had a supercharged Xterra and a supercharged Frontier where they had small V6 engines with a supercharger. They were fun. They were playful. Now they introduced a supercharged V6 Frontier, but not as an off-roader, as a slammed.
Wait, when you say introduced it, they had it at SEMA. They're not building it.
No, they didn't say. No, I'm sorry. They just showed it.
Yeah, they had a lot.
But Nissan, please build it.
Yeah, build it.
Yes. Not the drift. I don't think you can sell a drift truck.
No.
There's not many people, who
Well, you could sell it, but not to a lot.
must buy a drifting truck, which is slammed on the ground.
Yeah.
But a supercharger would be kind of cool for like an off-road version.
Or even an on-road version. I would love to. Yeah, do what Ford's doing. Take a page out of their book. Because as far as I know, you can't get a supercharger for a Ford midsize truck, but potentially you could do it for a Frontier, huh?
Well, and Ford is doing tunes, right, from the dealer.
Yeah.
Or from Ford Performance, where you can tune your turbocharged engines at Ford. So Nissan could do something similar. And the other theme was, Roman, several manufacturers had tailgate trucks with TVs mounted inside of them. They also had an Infiniti QX80 with a TV mounted inside of it.
It seems to be another trend, Andre, where people apparently like tailgating
in their luxury trucks.
In luxury trucks with, giant television screens and, refrigerators to cool their libation.
Yeah. Yes. So that was a huge trend. So Nissan had it with a Frontier. Infiniti had it with a QX80. Toyota had it with a Tundra. Where else did we see TVs?
Everywhere.
We saw TVs somewhere else.
They were around every wall.
Yeah.
A lot of TVs. All right. Before we wrap this up, I think we're going to be running out of time pretty soon. What was your favorite vehicle there? And you can't say that Lamborghini swap Miata. Got to go with something else. I know what my favorite vehicle was. I'll tell you what it was because it was so cool and so unique.
The other trend was resto-mods.
Yeah, oh my God, there's so many resto-mods.
I think almost every booth almost had a resto-mod.
Oh, that one, the Land Cruiser resto-mod with the Tacoma body,
yes.
that was so badass. Tell them what it was.
I think that's my favorite.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Yeah.
So basically, you walk up to this, and it's a lifted FJ45. So it looks like an FJ, classic FJ Land Cruiser. But and then you look closer, and it is lifted. It's got a bigger tire, and then you look slightly closer, and something is not quite matching. And then you realize it basically has a Toyota Tacoma interior. And basically the drivetrain, the frame and all of the other bits are new. So it was awesome. It looked really cool.
So I am not a huge fan of resto mods.
Why?
Well, I'll give you a couple reasons. I'll give you 3 reasons.
Okay.
First, I love old cars because they're time capsules of their day. So when you get into a 20, 30, 40-year-old car or truck, it puts you back into that moment that you were there, like when you were a kid.
Okay, I get it. Certain noises, smells.
Yeah, it puts
the
you
way it
right.
works.
It's as close to a time capsule until we invent time travel as you can get, and you can, you could relive. For instance, that if it was your deal, the first kiss or your first drag,
Or the first buhanka.
whatever that moment was that you loved in a vehicle, car or truck. You can relive that because everything is there around you. And when you resto mod it, what you're doing is creating a hybrid of yesterday and today. And so it takes that magic out of it.
Okay.
That's reason number 1. Reason number 2, I kind of feel like you've given up, right? Because I feel like when I went camping as a kid, we went tent camping. And it was uncomfortable, and it was cold, and rocks dug into your back.
I still do some tent camping,
saying? And it rained. It got and you got to keep the fire going. But it was like living, right? It was adventure. It was real. It was hard. But sometimes the best things in life aren't easy; they're hard. And when you resto mod something, you're making something that was not super hard, but certainly much more difficult, right? Where there was a sense of potential adventure because the thing might die, or you might have to. Figure out why the carburetor is flooded, and you're making it into a modern car, and so it just becomes a convenience that's no longer adventure bound. Does that make sense? There's no sense of like difficulty.
Yes,
Yeah. Sometimes
I get it.
the more difficult things are, the harder they are.
Rewarding.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And then the other thing I don't like about resto mods is that you're taking something that for all of us was affordable, and because all of a sudden people are starting to resto mod it, makes it very unaffordable. So if you watch any of the auctions, right, like Mecum, and those resto mods are through the roof.
And maybe that's why they're at SEMA everywhere.
Yeah,
maybe
so
that's why.
I mean, when I say through the roof, like let's take, we had that old Bronco. Remember there was a Bronco there.
Yes. Well, there's a Bronco almost in every corner.
The first gen Bronco.
Yes.
And that thing was kind of halfway to a tractor. It wasn't very comfortable. But it was real, and it was charming, and it was fun in its own way. The problem is you take those Broncos, which we bought at the time, this was probably 10 years ago now, for what, $13,000?
I think so.
Yeah, now you couldn't touch a first-gen Bronco for a first-gen Bronco for under like $40,000.
Yeah.
Right?
Or if it's resto modded, it could be over $100,000.
Yeah, and so you're taking these things that at one point were affordable for most of us and making them completely unaffordable because all the rich guys and gals are buying them up as resto mods. And so how many of those Broncos are left that are barn finds or that are just, on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace that untouched that maybe you could buy and fix up? None of them, because all the guys resto modding them have bought those things up and then have flipped them for, 2, 3, 4, 500,000.
Okay.
That's why I don't like resto mods.
Fair points. And I want to hear what the audience, what you guys also think. But let me tell you why you're wrong.
Okay, yeah. Why am I wrong, Andre? Why am I wrong?
All right, I'm being too harsh. You're not wrong. You had some fair points. But here's the thing. For me, meeting a classic vehicle is like sometimes it's like meeting your hero.
Sure.
Right? You've built up that vehicle in your mind. Let's say maybe it's a Countach or maybe it's something else. It doesn't have to be a Lamborghini. It can be anything. It could be a Plymouth GTX. It could be
a Typhoon.
It could be a Typhoon. It could be a Buick or anything.
Whatever that thing was that you had up on your wall.
Yeah, and maybe when you were a kid, let's say at 12 or 14 or 15 or 16, you remember that vehicle from then, and then you've built it up in your mind.
Okay, let's say the Countach.
Okay,
that would have been
Countach.
a car that or
all of us had on our walls.
or a Ferrari Testarossa, right? The one
Yes.
with like the cheese grater on the
Yes.
side. Yeah.
And then you finally, let's say you're successful. You can actually approach that car and actually drive it or maybe buy it. And you met your hero, and the hero lets you down.
Yeah, you can't like in a Countach, you can't basically back it up without sitting.
There's no vision towards the back.
Yeah.
There is no space. Maybe for a taller person, it's hard to fit in.
The clutch is incredibly heavy.
Maybe it breaks down on your first drive. Maybe the carburetor explodes. I don't know.
Right.
So all of a sudden, you're terribly disappointed by the hero you just met. It
So
crushes your soul.
Why don't you just buy the new Countach if that's what you want? Because they took a Countach and they basically, like whatever the anniversary was, Lamborghini built a new version of it.
See, it's kind of a resto-mod now. See,
It's a factory
so that's where
resto-mod.
I am. So for me,
So you're saying if you want to meet your hero, and you
but
want
I
that
want
car-
the
you want
perfect
the-
version of my hero.
You want that car to be. Yeah.
I want that. I want my hero to be
You
the
don't
perfect
want to meet
version of
Clark
it.
Kent. You want to meet Superman. Right?
Yes, kind of. So yeah, so in my mind, if you have a classic vehicle, pick it whatever it is, and then it has modern brakes, modern cooling. It maybe has more power. It maybe has more convenience. Maybe it has Apple CarPlay. Maybe it
It'll
has.
definitely have Apple CarPlay.
Well, yes. So if you combine all that thing and it has classic beauty, I think it's very attractive.
It's certainly much more usable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's where I am.
Oh, fair.
And but I like your points as well, because being a time capsule, there's something about it when you get into a vehicle and it reminds you of youth, smells or touches or whatever it may be.
Oh, there were a lot of touches when I was a kid.
Whoa.
There were a lot of touches, Andre. Because growing up as a kid, you had your parents at home, so the car was your
your
space.
domain.
Yes.
On that note,
On that note, I don't think that's being unfair. I think we've all had that experience.
here, Roman,
Hopefully, we've all had it.
let me give you an example.
Okay.
Sorry, guys. I'm showing Roman a picture now, okay?
Yep.
So it's a square body.
Yeah, with big ass dub wheels.
Well, don't forget about the wheels.
Okay, just a square body.
It's a square body crew cab, right? It's a heavy-duty K20 truck. And it looks nice, right?
Yeah, I like it.
But it is not a K20.
No, what is it?
It's a brand new 2020 Chevy Silverado heavy-duty.
So they made it.
But it's a brand new truck with an old body on top of it.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I'm not.
I don't know. I mean, so now you have a modern diesel, lots of power, incredible comfort, new interior, and then also classic body.
Hey, let's end on this. Another trend I saw, which I think is catching on, and it has been for some time now, are those single rear wheel SRW dualies.
Big heavy trucks, but with no duals.
Yeah, a lot of people are. It makes sense. Why would you want to deal with 6 wheels and tires when you can only deal with 2, and probably not have to worry about like having to replace 6, or all the issues you get by having those dually tires, where you can't get them too close. You can't get stuff in between.
You could have a
them.
blown tire
Yeah,
because of it. Yada yada yada.
Yeah, and they work just as well. They tow as much. So why not a single rear wheel?
Yeah, and I think tire technology allowed it to happen,
Yeah.
right? Because now tires can carry heavier loads, heavier weights. Makes sense.
All right, well,
I love it.
I want to thank our patrons for
Thank you.
supporting us, and for you guys for listening and watching to this podcast / video. And if you're interested in seeing those videos that we talked about, the walkarounds, they're going to be over at alltfl.com. And you could see me, especially on the car video, stumble and mumble and kind of meet my hero. Remember what my hero was? I remember the cool car we saw at the very end of that walk around, which was that air-cooled Porsche that had gone on 7 races in 7 continents.
It was a snowmobile.
It was piloted by 2 women, which I thought was cool. And then the very
But it
last
had snow tracks.
the
in the
very
back.
last race they did was they put on like skis on the front and tracks in the back, which I thought was so cool for an old air-cooled Porsche. So cool.
That was one of your heroes?
I love that.
Yeah.
If I had to pick like what the vehicle that to me represented adventure and thinking out of the box, who would have? I mean, those vehicles are very valuable now. But yet somebody just used it, raced it around the world, and then said, you know what? We'll go race it in Antarctica and we'll just put treads on it. How cool is that?
It is cool.
All right. We'll see you guys next time.
I really appreciate you guys, and see you next time.
Ciao.